And I didn't want to go. There was some people from California. They were from Venice Beach. Now Venice Beach it's got the most beautiful white sand you ever saw in your life. Well, they wanted me to go with them to Venice Beach. Didn't want to go, didn't want to leave Oklahoma. I loved Oklahoma. But an old friend of mine came by and he said, Tommy, I was talking to old Captain Phobos. They got a warrant for your arrest. They don't want the rest of us, they want you. They feel if they'll get you and send you off, it'll break up the gang and it'll all be over. He said, so them people that's offering you this ride to California, if I were you, I'd think it over and kind of do some real serious thinking on this. It's either go with them to California or go to prison. You decide which one you'd rather do. But I thought it over. And I decided Venice Beach, California would be better than
prison.
So I went with them. With them about 2 weeks. Now I've been homeless. My parents couldn't let me stay there. It was too crazy. But the grandson, I went with a guy my age, was 1 year older. But I'm 17, he's 18, that's not the same. And his grandma. But Teddy and we got into a fight over a girl. I won the fight. Teddy got the girl. And Grandma got mad and kicked me out. So here I am, I went up to Venice Beach, sat down on one of those benches, took off my cowboy boots, sitting there running my feet through the sand, feeling sorry for myself. I was looking down Venice Boulevard, and here's 2 old ladies coming out of the apartments where I was at, and I recognized one of them. She was the landlord of the apartments. And the other one, she's in my book. She's Sister Goldie. Now, like I said, nothing is coincidental. Both of these women were what we call the Azusa Street Saints. When they were young, they went through the Azusa Street Revival. God had it all planned out. Not Tommy. And I knew what they were doing. They were headed straight for me. And I knew they were going to witness to me. So I got in my con mode. Thought, play along with them. Maybe they'll feed you or give you some money to buy some food. It was later in the evening, and I was getting hungry. Sure enough, they came up there and one plopped on one side and one on the other. Sister Goldie then asked me to say the sinner's prayer. Now, I wasn't really that serious. But I said it, and it's like a heater went off in my chest. Something happened. I started crying and shaking. And I didn't know what. Now, I've been in church all my life, but I looked down at Sister Goldie and I said, I'm a Christian. I was shocked that God was thinking. And she said, yes. Well, they took me down to the landlord's apartment, gave me supper, and I got to sleep on her couch that night. And next morning, Sister Goldie came over and said Pisco wouldn't let me come and stay there. I didn't know what that was, but okay. I need someplace to stay. And this was a different world, California, than Oklahoma. Them teenagers there they were digging. You couldn't smile at a woman. If you did, you were a sex pervert. You didn't smile at a man. If you did, you were a funny boy. And so, and back in Oklahoma, I smiled at everybody. I learned quick, don't smile at these people just we get to know them. And she took me on a long bus ride from Venice Beach to Highland Park, which is right up next to Pasadena, which right behind them is the San Gabriel Mountains. Well, on the ride over there, she told me all about Azusa Street. Now, I had heard about it all my life. Mama had talked about it, or there's some of the preachers, such as Branham and Allen and Cole and Jaggers and a bunch of them, talk about some black preacher in L.A. Okay. I didn't realize how many stories they had. Wow. I was interested in what Sister Goldie had to say. These were some stories for this old storyteller. And when we got to Pisgah, they had about, back then they had about half a square block. So now they got about 3/4. And she introduced me to a bunch of them, and Harold Smith. Now Harold Smith had a big revival in the Blue Ridge Mountains, long before most of you were ever thought of. And he right up there at Pisgah in 1950. And then that's when the Azusa Saints started settling there. Except for Sister Carney. She was always there. And they were praying, and they decided that there were many people coming there wanting these people to tell their stories. Talking about Branham, Tommy Hicks, Demas Shakarian, Harold Ruddiston, David Duplessis. Now, a lot of y'all, most of you don't know who I'm talking about. But as older people, if you're around there, these were the generals of the faith back in the 60s. And but they wouldn't start telling them to me I was saved, but I didn't have the Holy Ghost. In other words, I didn't speak in tongues. Well, I didn't want the Holy Ghost. I didn't like him. I couldn't get away with anything. I come up to my mother when I was 5 years old. Mama, I've got my chores done. Yeah, but you also went down to so-and-so went swimming, didn't you? And I'm a 5-year-old kid. How you know? Holy Ghost told me.
Yeah. I used to say that all the time. Oh my God.
But I thought that's a rat feet. And I told my mother, I said, you know what I think about the Holy Ghost? Dumb thing to do. Turn around, put her hands on her hips, and no, what do you think? I said, I think he's a rat feet. I shouldn't have said that.
That's terrible.
Oh, Mama got scared. She only whipped me 6 times in my lifetime. Now, don't worry about it. My father did that about 6 times a month. But she thought I'd blaspheme. And, but as I grew up, William Branham scared me senseless. Have any of you ever heard anything about William Branham?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Branham had the most keenest gift of knowledge than anybody.
Yes.
That man discerned you out. And I knew it was the Holy Ghost doing it. So I didn't want to be near him.
Come on. Hey.
I told them I didn't want the Holy Ghost. Well, they were, so Laura Laytoff got an idea. She came over to me and said, Tommy, there's something I'd like you to do for me if you think you're man enough. Well, to a 17-year-old kid, you know, you're man enough. What is it, Laura? She says, I'd like for you to read the 9th chapter of Revelations and see if you want to go through this stuff. Okay. I read it and it scared me. This stuff falling on you and wouldn't kill you. But I kept looking and I found an outlet. If you had the name of God in your forehead, they couldn't bother you. So I went running looking for Laura. I found her. I said, Laura, how you get the name of God in your forehead? And she smiled real big. She says, as soon as you start speaking in those tongues. In 2 days I had the Holy Ghost speaking in tongues. Well, they watched me for about a month. Make sure I had the real thing. I did, and then it started, Tommy, we know that God has brought you here to tell us your story, our stories. I said, really? I like stories. Well, let's start. I said, okay. So a little later, Laura came by and said, Tommy, is there anything you'd like to eat or drink when you come to our apartments for us to tell you the stories? I said, yeah, I like cold milk and chocolate chip cookies. See, I didn't quit eating them cookies. I'd go to each one's house once a month, or apartment, and there would over a dozen of them, and I'd sit at their feet. Now, I'm a 17-year-old young man from Oklahoma, right in the middle of the love festivals, you know, love-ins, with the hippies. They said, you go to them? I said, no. I was too engrossed with listening to those stories. I sat there listening, mind boggled. You see, I listen intensely, and what you say, I see. If a person's up there preaching and I'm watching them, I see what they're saying. And my favorites were Sister Carolyn, Brother Anderson, David Salazar. But all of them had their stories that were just, oh my lands. Folks, we're talking about creative miracles. We're talking about limbs just growing out right in front of your face.
Yeah.
I'll tell them you're too late with me on evolution. You see, it takes millions of years for them to evolve the growth of all this stuff. And I've seen too many legs and arms and things like that grow back in. Forget it. I asked Sister Carney. I'd always start out with them. Now, tell me your favorite story of the miracle you first that you participated in at Azusa Street. Now you got to remember, this thing ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 3.5 years. Then it died down some, and they went to one night a week. I mean, one night. Just 7 nights a week, but just once a day. Now, pastors, listen to this. Seymour lived in an apartment up over the church there. He came down 3 times a day and ministered. And he prayed 7 hours a day.
Wow.
He didn't have no trouble, he had no time to get in trouble. But Sister Connie, she wore little hook and eye boots, you know, little granny dresses. Her chin kind of stuck out and her mouth suck in a little bit, but she had such a gleam in her eye. And when she go tell them stories, oh, she get caught up in them, and I get caught up in them with her. And she told one about a guy in a wheelchair. Back then, 1906, a lot of wheelchairs didn't have rubber on the wheels, just wooden. Well, this young man had, I guess, polio. He had big braces on his legs, and he's crippled. Well, she prayed for him, but she done the Carney rule. Sister Carney was over the young people. No one appointed it to her. She just assumed the authority. But she made the rule, when someone's in a wheelchair, first thing you do, pick each foot up and put the flap up, put their foot on the ground. So they're going to get healed or receive their healing. They're going to.
Amen.
So you put their feet down as an act of faith. And she says, now get up and walk. And he says, I can't, these braces are too heavy. She said, oh, some of you men, come over and take these braces off. Took them off and said, now get up and walk. He got up and walked. I got to meet Aubrey Lee. He's an old man, but pastored a big church there in LA. And he had a big fiery choir. He had a famous old songwriter named Doris Havers. She wrote, Walking Up the King's Highway. There's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. And I really was amazed. He came to Pisgah on Fellowship Day. The 15th day of every month they had Fellowship Day. And a lot of them would come over there to visit their friends in the Azusa Street, or they came over to be healed. Them saints, I saw miracle after miracle there at Pisgah. Them old people did not quit working the gifts. And most of the healings didn't take place at church. Church wasn't going on. They did it out there on the grounds. And they had the freedom to do so. Now, Tommy Anderson, he was a character. A lot of times I called him Hobby. When Tommy Anderson would walk, he took long steps and go up and down. And at a distance, it looked like he was hopping. Tommy wound up being a missionary to Mexico. I asked him about the greatest miracle, and it was I got to meet her, Sister Diane. Diane was a legend there in LA. She was awarded an award by the mayor of Los Angeles, by the county commissioner, and by the governor of California. She had a tumor on the side of her face, about half the size of a basketball. And when she walked, she'd hold it because it bounced up and down and it would hurt. Well, it got malignant. It got malignant. And they told her back then they didn't have what they have now. They didn't think they could operate on it because they thought it was too big. But they told her she had just a few months to live. She lived about 3 blocks from Azusa Street. And she said, now I got the meter, she told me, I thought, well, they say miracles are happening up there at that old warehouse. So what you got to lose? She said, so I got one kid on one side, one kid, the other in my arm, and my tumor in the other. And I waddled up there to the medical. She's the first one to call the fire department. Report to them that Azusa Street mission was on fire because flames were shooting up out of the roof and go about 50 foot high and stop. And about 50 foot above that, a ball of fire would appear, and a stream of fire would go down and go through the fire coming up. And you saw that all over LA. They never did have to advertise. See it anywhere. That's what drew the crowd so big all the time. What's going on out there? So she got in, and now in between people speaking, people will go around praying for people. They were encouraged to do so. Seymour believed in the signs following. So do I. I will tell you, I'm going to say that I believe in the 4 signs following, or I won't come to your church. You're going to let me say it. Every believer can work the gifts. Now, they're not called to a ministry. That's not a gift, that's a calling. You're called by God, not mama. By God. And she came in and she's looking around, and Tommy Anderson would, if he wasn't praying for somebody, he'd get up on one of them 2x12s. That was their pews back then. And watch others pray for people. When he was up there, she came in, she looked up at him, he looked down at her, and he leaped over to her. And he says, God's going to heal you today. She says, well, that's what I came here for. They laid hands on her and started praying for her, and she said, Tommy, she says, I could feel that thing shrieking in my hand. And in just a few seconds, that thing was gone. Gone. In 1914, God told her to go to the farmer's market and get some vegetables and cook up a pot of vegetable stew and go down to Skid Row and start a soup lot. She said she dug it up. She told me, Tom, I dug it up. I found the only quarter I had. God, all I got's a quarter. And she says, you heard God say, that is sufficient. Now, in 1914, you could buy a lot of vegetables with a quarter. She did. When I got there in 1960, she had 10 meals a day, 7 days a week. And at each meal, she fed 5,000. That's why she became so popular. She done a lot of good there on Skid Row.
Thank you, Lord Jesus.
And I just love talking to her. But Seymour, now he had 2 miracles that really kind of boggled the mind. Now, some of you don't know, Seymour was black. Blind in one eye from smallpox. I've had a lot of people say, Tommy, now that eye got healed, right? I said, no. I said, everybody marvels that Seymour had created miracles. Mind-boggling. They said, well, I looked at that eye in the pictures, And it looks real. I says, that artificial eye place, they did a good job, didn't they? That eye was glass. Now God could have still healed it. But for some reason, it's just like I've had many deaf people healed in my meetings. But I wear 2 hearing aids, but I don't have one right now. And Satan's all the time trying to kill me. I mean, I had a major heart attack in 2010. Doctors talking to me in Baptist Hospital in Oklahoma City said, Mr. Welchel, we don't know. We're going to operate. We'll see what God will do. I said, okay. I said, Doc, what's my chances? He said, you don't have one. He said, Mr. Welchel, you should be up there on the slab in the morgue. Technically, you're dead. I says, okay. I'm looking at him like, explain that to me. He says, the artery going into your heart is not working. That's a heart attack. Okay. The artery going into your, for the blood to come back, it's not working. I says, okay. He said, that should kill you. He said, but most of all, your heart's not beating. You're dead. I said, well, okay. I've been to heaven 3 times, folks. And I'm going to tell you now, I liked it up there. And I just smiled. I said, okay. So after he left, I said, now, Lord, you know, you brought me up there 3 times. And you know I kind of like it. And if you want to, I'll
go ahead and stay.
I'm glad to go home. But not my will, but yours be done. If you've got more for me to do, then you do your thing. If not, I'd love to go home. It even upsets my wife now if I get into serious trouble. Say the same thing. It's up to you, Lord. Now that happened. Jody called me, told me what she had going and when I was going to go. Okay. 30 minutes later, Michelle called and told me she'd sign that contract with people in Brazil and put that book in Portuguese. Okay. And then 30 minutes later, I'm in the bed, deathly sick. And I'm in the bedroom. And I'm starting to see the glow of heaven. Lord, am I going home? Now, I don't say that scared. I say it with a smile on my face. Am I going home? I said, but now, Lord, I don't think so. Jody wouldn't have got those meetings if you wouldn't intend for me to go. That's it. I had some big meetings this year, but this virus got them all canceled. But Jody got in here. He got these meetings down here in Kentucky. I don't know what's going to happen, but see, Seymour's 2 biggest miracles. If you've ever seen me on It Is Supernatural with Sid Roth,
Yes.
he, me, and Axel. And 07, a man that worked at the freight yards, he got his leg here caught by a train, and it took it off. Well, now, back then they wore wooden studs, not artificial limbs like they do now. Now he had gotten gangrene, he got the sore, gotten gangrene, he was in a lot of pain. Several of them told me this story. I think one I liked the best was Brother Sines. He went up on the platform and told Seymour what was wrong. And he said, it's got gangrene with him. And he said, well, Seymour says, can you balance on your left leg? He said, yeah. Good. You men come up here and take this wooden leg off this man. Now he's wearing overalls. legs, they were loose. They took it off. Seymour laid hands on him, started praying for him, and the sign says he was up on the platform too. You could see movement went down that pants. All of a sudden, a foot shot out. Seymour did not preach that night. You couldn't shut them people up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, I'd have been one of them too. I'd have been shot too. Come on.
Yes, yes.
We need to see that again.
Yes, yes.
He had that man the next year, 10 years before then, this is 2008. In 1898, he'd got his arm caught in a machine at work that had ripped even the shoulder joint out. And you could see the bone sticking there in a hole. Well, they didn't have disability or workman's comp and unemployment and insurance like that back then. You was at the mercy of the city, county, state, and the churches. But that guy couldn't use that one arm, but he was getting sick. That arm never did heal in there. The flesh was starting to stink down in there. It turned an ugly color. And he told Seymour he was dying. He knew it. Seymour said, young people, y'all remember that leg that grew out last year? Oh, yeah. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them, yeah. He said, we'll have some fun tonight. He laid hands on that man. David Garcia said he saw him watching. He said, Tommy, I can look down in that hole and it was just, yeah, sickening stuff. He said, Seymour laid his hands on his shoulder and his head, started praying. He says, and that flesh in there it turned a beautiful pink. And them bones started growing out. You could see it. Nothing covered it up. He said, in slow motion, they just bones about 4 inches, and then behind it, flesh would come around it. And he stood there and watched it come out. He says, and when I seen all of a sudden fingernails popped on. And he said, I lost it. I said, well, all happens, I don't know. I wouldn't preach that night either. When you're sitting, no wonder they had such a revival.
Yes.
But the secret is not you. You don't do the healing. God does.